Hi, my name is Jay Raman. I'm professor of urology at Penn State Health and chair of the AUA's Office of Education. Thank you for attending the inaugural session of what we hope will become semi-regular updates discussing matters that are important to you and your program. Your continued support is invaluable to us, and it is with great enthusiasm that we initiate this endeavor to hopefully strengthen the bond between the AUA's Office of Education and residency training programs. Our hope is that through initiatives like this, we can provide you with valuable insights and a deeper appreciation for the diverse array of offerings that the Office of Education has for your trainees. And our goal is really to support you in enhancing your residence education. We are really excited to have you on board today. I hope you find this session to be enjoyable and informative. And with that, let me turn it over to the AUA's Office of Education staff. Thank you.
Hey, good afternoon or good morning, depending on where you are. And thank you for joining us for our first AUA Live program where we're reaching out to residency programs to talk about things. And in this case, we're talking about exam reg. My name is Patrick Curley. I'm the Senior Manager of Digital Products in the Office of Education. And along with my colleague, that way, Katie Kincaid. Hi, Katie. We will be hosting today's webinar. Our goal today is to assist you in understanding the exam and registration process for the ISE, and we will review the exam preparation guidelines, exam registration, give some exam day tips, and FAQs about the exam. As well, if you have questions, put them in the YouTube comments. We will answer them as they come along, or we'll get them at the end. And let's see. Yeah, we'll get to them where we want. So let's talk about the exam first. Katie, do you want to give a brief introduction on the ISE?
Sure, Pat. The ISE is a multiple choice test designed to aid programs in assessing their educational strengths and areas for improvement, along with monitoring the progress and performance of the individual examinees. The exams are not mandatory, and they are administered annually on the third Saturday in November. The 2023 exam will take place on Saturday, November 18th, and the fee for this year's exam is $170.
So let's talk about some of the basic guidelines around the exam.
First things first, Pat, can you tell us about the exam start time?
Sure. Each program, Katie, gets to determine their own exam venue and start time for the exam. As a guide, we suggest that exams are started after 7 a.m. Eastern and should be completed by 8 p.m. Eastern. Special exemptions apply. We know some people can only take them in the evening, so we will work around that, but know that those are the general times. The ISE is slotted for 4 hours, and for the residency programs, you'll have some people taking the OCAT. The OCAT is allotted for 3 hours. Standard support from ITS, who's administering the exam, is from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Eastern. So any exam taken outside of that time, you could have delays in feedback with the results of the issues. The AUA does not mandate any setup, but it requires, most importantly, that all exams are proctored in person and on site on the exam day. There is no virtual option for the exam. As a note, we log, and we send this to you in the information, but we log all the IP addresses and we review them after the exam, and we will, if there's an anomaly in the program, we will reach out to the programs to ask them some questions. Any failure to administer the exam in an in-person secure environment could be subject to sanctions.
Speaking a little bit more on exam setups, programs can choose to structure exams in the way that best suits the needs of their programs and/or their examinees. For example, a program may choose to host only one session in one room, have one session in multiple rooms, have 2 sessions in multiple rooms, or have 2 sessions in one room. The number of sessions and exam rooms will determine the number of proctors that you need, so please keep this in mind when you're scheduling your exam. Programs that elect to administer the exams in 2 sessions or in multiple rooms will need proctors to be scheduled in each session and room accordingly. The AUA requires at least one designated in-person proctor per room, plus one additional as a backup.
Yeah. And where can you take the exam, right? So the next question is, this can be done on personal laptops. It can be done on department or division computers. It can be done in your school's computer lab. It can be in any of those situations. The only real restriction is it cannot be done on a tablet. And in the FAQs that you get sent and that are sent out to the residency programs, we have all of this laid out, including the minimum requirements for a computer. We will provide instructions for setting up the secure browser for testing and logging into the exam portal to access the information and materials such as the rosters prior to the exam. It's critical, Katie, that these programs log in and have all these materials prior to November 18th to ensure a smooth day.
Now that we've touched on exam setup, let's move on to registration. The AUA requires that each exam participant is registered prior to the exam. Registration for the ISE opened up yesterday, and it's going to run through October 2nd this year. The exam registration information was sent to program directors and coordinators yesterday, September 5th. You should have gotten an email, and if you did not, please feel free to reach out to me. My email is up on the slide there. Please make sure you don't share the exam link with residents, as they're not able to access the correct ISE registration. Again, if you did not receive the emailed instructions, please feel free to reach out to me. Now, Pat is going to walk you through the steps to register for the exams.
Yep. So using the exam registration link sent to you yesterday, you'll need to log in with your program's AUA ID and password. This was provided to you in the email. If you had been doing something else on the AUA Net site, it may not be your program that's logged in. It may automatically log you in, and you'll need to hit log out and re-click on that link in order to get into your program's registration page. Your password will be the same password as in previous years, and you're going to hear this as a recurring theme for this conversation. If you have questions or you need your password reset, reach out to Katie. Katie can solve those problems. Once you are logged into the homepage, you can click on the register button on the left side, and this will allow you to register your examinees. To register your examinees, you'll need a list of their AUA IDs and their PGY levels. The AUA ID might be the more problematic of the two for you. I'm certain you guys all know the PGY levels. From this page, you can see that you can register both your residents and your faculty, if you have any. There's usually only a handful of faculty that take this every year. For residents, you're going to put in their AUA ID, their name should auto-populate, and then you set their PGY level and click Add. You're going to go through this process until you have all of your residents added. The faculty is just a little further scroll down the page, and in this case, you're going to put in their AUA ID and their years out of residency. That's the second big piece of information we're looking for just for statistical purposes. So the next part that you'll want to register are your proctors. Your proctors, again, on the left side, there's a button that says proctors. Proctors don't need to be entered at the same time as registration. However, prior to October 2nd, they will need to be entered into the system. Proctors may be faculty, administrators, program coordinators, or office personnel, and you'll be able to enter them on the registration site until the 2nd. So from here, you're going to fill out in each column name, first name, last name, email. This is independent for each person, so you'll need all of those pieces of information. If you need to update your proctors, it's not a problem. If you need to update your proctors, please reach out to Katie Kincaid. Again, common theme that's going to happen. Reach out to Katie, and she can help you get set up. Katie, is there you have any other comments on the proctor information?
Yes, and we did actually get a question. Yes, program coordinators can be proctors, and we actually recommend that program coordinators do go ahead and use that third proctor space to enter their information in as a proctor, because that gives them access to the exam roster so that they can make sure that all of their residents are correctly entered and that everybody is set up correctly. If your program needs more than 3 proctors, please contact me and I'll be able to set that up for you, as there are only 3 proctor spaces on that website.
It's a great question, and I'm glad it was asked in the chat. On the registration website, so you've registered, you've put in all your residents, you've got your proctors set up. Not necessarily have to do this, but your next step is payment. So on the registration website, after all that registration information has been entered, you're going to click on the payment button on the left. Try to point my finger that general direction. To avoid late fees, payments must be processed by October 2nd. And again, once again, if you have any issues with this, or if you have to fill out some paperwork and you need a couple extra days, email Katie or email customer service, and they'll take care of it. Thank you. So from this, I'll be honest, the next couple steps can be a little awkward, so I'll walk through them a little tighter. So at the top, you're going to have a checkbox that acknowledges that what we talked about earlier, that your residents will be proctored on site and in person. We're gonna kind of put an attestation check mark on that. And then you're going to click Make Payment on the next page, or at the bottom of the page. Now, this is going to bring you to our Pay Balances page. So this might have a bunch of things on here that are non-pertinent to this conversation. But the very first one should list should be the one that you're looking for. It should have the date of the day that you're doing this. You're going to click the check box next to the invoice number, I think, and then you can scroll down to the bottom of the page and put in your credit card information and pay order. Now, Katie, if they want to pay by check, what do they do?
To pay by check, they can print an invoice either from this page, or they can email me, and then I'll provide you with the mailing address. It's the same mailing address if you've mailed checks to the PO box for AUA before. It's the same one, but you can just reach out to me. I'll get you an invoice and you can mail your check that way.
So that should have you've paid, you should be registered, and you're good to go.
Once you've completed those steps, you are all set, like Pat said. We recommend verifying examinee and proctor rosters prior to the exam day. Like we mentioned a little bit before, instructions for accessing those rosters will be emailed in mid-October. Should your program run into any issues or need any changes to the roster or proctor listing, either before or after you get registered, please reach out to me. And with that, congratulations, you're registered. Once you've completed registration and have received instructions to confirm your roster, there are a few more steps that you should take to make sure that your program is ready for exam day. Like we said, we'll be sending out this information a little bit later, but this is very important, so we wanted to make sure that we went through it here.
Katie, do we want to hit some of the questions that have come into the chat? The first one you talked about, one of our residents will be in Australia during the ISE. Can you do the exam from there? That kind of they must be proctored on site in person. So if a faculty, I will just say an example, if they're going to a meeting and a faculty is there with them, we can discuss that, right? But if they're going on vacation, I would say there's no that they're essentially not going to be able to take the exam remotely, because there is no remote option. So another quick question. Let's see, people want to know if this presentation, we'll post this presentation on the FAQ page that Katie is probably about to talk about. And, and is the process the same for the OCAT? It's incredibly similar. It's not the exact same, but it's incredibly similar. There is no charge, so it's just a matter of entering in the fellows from your program. I don't see any other that have come in, so we'll go on to the next kind of step here. So a few weeks before the exam, you'll get information from Katie about roster confirmation and system checks. The system checks will allow you to be sure that the computers are going to work the day of the exam, right? The last thing you want is 7 in the morning and nobody's computer's working. So you can do the system checks a week ahead of time, the week of, to make sure that everything's good. Additionally, the AUA recommends checking the system requirements again on this FAQ page for downloading the secure browser in advance of the exam. Technical support issues can be dealt with on this page as well, and they will go directly to ITS specifically about the issues with the secure browser.
Yep, and again, our exam vendor ITS does provide us with an FAQ page, which is also on the same system check page that you will get a link to. And we highly recommend that you utilize this prior to the exam day to make sure that you're all set with technical requirements and to familiarize yourself with the system and any issues you may run into. Should you have any additional technical questions, like Pat said, there's a place on this page where you can get in touch with the ITS team. And in order to assist your program in having the smoothest exam day possible, I know we threw a lot of information at you, so we've created a few resources to help support your program. This exam preparation checklist outlines the steps that we've explained throughout this presentation, along with some important dates to keep in mind. Also on the bottom corner of this page, there's a QR code that will take you to our ISE overview and FAQ pages, which is another helpful resource that has a lot of this information kind of written down, so you can take a look at it if you need. And then this slide details a quick kind of cheat sheet to help your program reach the appropriate contact for any questions or troubleshooting you may come across during the exam day. We want to make sure that you're getting in touch with the right person so that you can get help as soon as possible, as we might have, times when a lot of programs are starting, and we want to make sure we get that contact to you as soon as possible. But of course, if you aren't sure who to contact or you have a question or an issue that's not listed on there, feel free to contact me. You guys should all have my email at this point. Now that we've reviewed the basics of exam preparation, registration, and verification, we have a few common questions about the exam that we'd like to review before we open the floor to additional questions. I know we've already had some great questions in the chat, so if you have any additional questions, feel free to put those in there and we'll address them at this time. But let's go ahead and start with a pretty common question that we get. Pat, can a resident take the exam at another program?
Yeah, they certainly can. And there are a couple logistical things, right? You have to, I'll restate this, the program coordinator should check with the other program coordinator to make sure that they have room. And then we have a site change form just so that we can keep track of it. Again, that person's going to fall out of one of those anomalies. So at least we know the anomaly in advance. And once again, Katie Kincaid can help you with this problem. I know that Katie, we've been talking to the SMSNA, right? They're looking at hosting a site as well, effectively. And we have been working with them and their leadership. So if you have residents going to the SMSNA meeting, we are working with them to set up a site to take the the ISE there as well. It's going to follow the same rules, right? They're going to have to make sure that it is proctored on site and in person, and effectively the programs are going to be held not liable, but they're going to be responsible for making sure it happens that way as well. So, but that is something that's being worked on at the moment. Any other questions, Katie? And people, if you have questions, feel free to throw them in the chat at this point.
We do have one question in the chat, and they're asking if they're able to register 4 proctors, as the site only has 3 proctor spaces. But yes, you are able to register more than 3 proctors. You can just go ahead and email me, and I'll get that proctor information taken care of you. So if anybody has a need for more than 3 proctors, just email me and I'll get that added for your program.
Yeah. Katie, I know that one of the common questions we get is about taking a late exam. So people ask us if they can take an evening exam or an after sundown exam. Again, the time slots are at the discretion of the residency program. So some programs do an entire 6 p.m. exam. Just, it kind of goes back to what I said at the very beginning. We just want to note that you have to finish by midnight Eastern time. And then you have to be aware that the tech support, if there's an issue, can be can be slow at that point. They do, there are, it is a business that changes things at night. So tech support can be issued. Last year, I believe we had about a 15-minute downtime. The exam came back up. Everybody was able to finish, but there was an issue that took place at, I believe it was, 9:30 p.m. Eastern. So it was pretty late at that point. Programs who are planning to do this, again, reach out to Katie, let her know. That gives us an opportunity to make sure that Katie and I are checking our emails, a little, kind of like at the end of the night, to make sure that if anybody's having any problem, we can put a check in. So, so just, I think that's something that kind of commonly comes up.
Another thing that commonly comes up is, what if a program needs to make any changes to their roster or their proctors after registering or before the exam day?
Yeah, so I would always kind of direct this back to Katie Kincaid, right? Email Katie. She'll let's say that you're swapping one person out for another. She'll take care of the data side of that and clear it up. If you have to add 1, 2, 3, 5 people, we'll get them added to the system and get an invoice out to you.
Sure, and this goes for if you know that if anybody is going to be missing the exam due to any unforeseen circumstances, somebody wakes up sick, somebody can't make it, you can also let us know. That's not the most pressing concern, but it is helpful for us to know, so we're not, looking at that person and waiting for them to get logged in or thinking that there's a problem there. It's just helpful for us to have a heads up to any changes that happen with your exam roster.
Yeah, it's nice to know that if 2,000 people are taking the exam, and we've got 1,950 of them done, that some of those are going to be nighttime. Some of those just don't exist. Sometimes it's nice to kind of know that we're no longer waiting for anybody. I think it leans into another thought of like, what happens if people have to miss it? I think we like to say that it's a non-required exam, right? So that if they miss it, they miss it. It is kind of, you won't have the longitudinal data to kind of show how they do over the 5 years, but there is no punishment, if you will, for missing the exam. I see a question in the chat about OCAT registration link. We will send that out today, so you should be able to start registering the OCAT later today. Let's see. Going through the questions here. There's another one that says, instructions say that Internet Explorer 9 or higher is required. Our hospital does not support Internet. Let us direct that over to ITS. I actually think that their system is not based on Internet Explorer. I think it's based on Chrome. So Kimberly, let us direct that over to them. Katie will get back to you with some feedback on that. But I know that generally people don't have issues, those kind of issues, because it is its own browser. Looking through, how long ahead of time will proctors get info? We usually send out the proctor email a week and a half out, in order to so that they can log in and start downloading the program rosters and making sure everything's okay. Susan asked a question, what's the recommended browser, Chrome or Edge? It's actually, what happens is ITS has its own browser. So you will download your own browser or their browser in this setup. This is why you need a little time to get your departmental IT group involved. And then that browser, they call it a secure browser, that browser keeps the resident from doing anything else on the computer during those 4 hours. They can't alt tab over to the core curriculum to look up answers. So it will actually install its own browser on the computer for testing. Yeah, lockdown browser. That's exactly right. At this point, Katie and I will be happy to sit here and wait on questions. But if any, that's kind of what we had to show you, and hopefully, everybody's able to get a successful registration. I know that before we started this meeting, there's already been almost 600 residents registered. So some people are out and running without any issue, and we will get the OCAD information out today.
Yeah, and of course, if you have any questions that didn't get answered during this, or if you're watching a recorded version of this, feel free to email me. I am responding to my emails as soon as I can. I know that got quite a few as registration opened up, but I will respond as soon as I can. Just feel free to email me. My email was in before. You should have gotten my email with the registration email as well. But again, it's kkincaid@auanet.org.
And we will post we'll post this video to the FAQ page so that people who missed it, or if you want to kind of go back and check something out, you can absolutely find the information. Let's see, Karen, you got a login error, and you couldn't get past it. Well, we'll talk to our IT group, and we'll get that resolved. If you don't mind emailing Katie. And something tells me you probably could log in right now, 5 seconds later, and maybe have a lucky in. The other recommendation we have sometimes when we have quirks with the browsers is to do what's called an incognito or private browser, which I think is generally Control-Shift-N, and it'll open a black window browser. And then that browser doesn't have kind of the baggage of what your computer's done before then, and I know that our team, we use them all the time, but we'll email Katie and we'll clear up the error. So.
Yeah, we'll dive a little deeper into that. But yes, the incognito or private browser usually works better. Just to make sure that your information isn't saved, like Pat said.
So another question, do we have to register all at once, or can we come back? You can come back. It's no problem. The catch is you'll probably, so once you've processed payment, you'll have to reach out to Katie. So if you register, it's essentially, think of that registration page as like a holding pen until you pay. So you can put people in, change them, and then on October 2nd, effectively, you'll want to make sure they're all locked in. And if you register today, let's say you register 10 residents, you have 3 more decide that they can do it, then we can add them on the back end and get everything set up for you. Well, let's see. Is there a way to find all our residents' AUA IDs? That one's a little harder. So you can email us, and we'll look them up for you. Honestly, a lot of times your residents just know them, and that's where we get them. But if there is no AUA ID lookup in our system, so we'll have to help you out with that. We might be able to send you last year's roster as a quick way to get a bunch of them quick. That'll probably speed you up, but yeah, we'll have to help you out with that.
Yeah, I can send last year's program roster, and then if you have any new residents, just send me those names along with the request, and I can get the ideas for the new residents as well, since they won't be on the roster from last year.
Okay, well, as always, reach out to Katie Kincaid if you have any questions, and we'll get you all taken care of. Everybody should be good. So let us know if there's any way we are here to help you. So whether it's talking about the ISE, whether it's talking about SASP or update series, just reach out to us. We're literally always here to help you guys. So let us know what we can do for you. Thank you, everyone, for attending.
Thank you.
Let us know if we can help you.